channel. This video is going to be for my end of the month haul for August. Before we get into it, just to be completely transparent, my main focus for this haul, when buying throughout August, was to mainly focus on indie titles. A lot of my collection, if you can't tell, is Marvel and DC omnibuses or hardcovers, along with a decent amount of manga. I didn't really get a lot of indie titles, so I haven't experienced a lot of indie titles. I know about them. I know the common consensus and kind of what the story's about, but I haven't read them in hand. So I was mainly focusing on getting those and adding them to the collection. To start right off, we have Blade of the Immortal in the Dark Horse Deluxe editions. This is my preferred format to collect it. I know there are the paperback omnis that some people do like just because they're a little bit lighter, but I actually do like the hardcover as well as kind of the leather-bound book aspect. They're essentially the exact same content as the paperback omnis, but put into a hardcover. But it is a great story. It is worth checking out for the art alone. The art is something I would almost compare to Jim Lee in a way, where it's very cartoony and comic booky, but sometimes it becomes so realistic you can almost confuse it with a photograph. I am currently reading this. Didn't start in my top 5 at first, but definitely has earned its place there. At first, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but has grown on me, and this volume 6 has been great so far. So definitely worth checking out. Happy to continue collecting it and add it to the collection. Moving on from there, we have Berserk, volume 11, also in the Dark Horse Deluxe editions. If you're in this community in any capacity, you've probably heard about Berserk. It is that good, and it is worth collecting. I don't think it's a hot take to say that this is probably the best thing I've ever read. And it's definitely worth experiencing if you haven't, and if you have experienced it, it's probably worth collecting and adding to your collection. Having Kentaro Miura's art blown up in this large format makes this worth the price of admission right away, just because, again, his art is immaculate. It can blow you away panel after panel after panel. So I am happy to continue collecting this, and I am collecting it as it comes out and reading it essentially as soon as it comes in as well. Definitely worth checking out if you somehow haven't, and I am happy to also be adding this to the collection and continue my adventure with Guts. And moving on from there, we have The Last Ronin, the deluxe editions. This is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle story. For some reason, I can't complete that sentence. It is much darker than your typical turtle story. It does involve 3 out of the 4 turtles dying and 1 turtle being left. I won't give away who dies and who doesn't or how, but it is worth checking out. It had a lot of hype and buzz around it when it was coming out in single issues. I have completed this story, but I am excited to add it to the collection and read from cover to cover completely, with no breaks in between. Alright, moving on from there, we have Something is Killing the Children. This is something I have not experienced, and I am excited to. This was being hailed as one of the best comics in recent years. I have experienced James Tynion's writing before in other titles, just not this one. So I am excited to flip through and actually get the story from beginning to end, cover to cover. I would more than likely expect a review on this one coming out for the channel, just because it's a hot book with a lot of differing opinions as far as the story and art and everything goes. So I am excited to add this to the collection and actually read it, since I haven't before. Moving on from there, we have a little bit of an odd choice. I've heard nothing but good things again, but this is Murder Falcon. I've had this described to me as heavy metal in a comic book format, which sells itself. I am excited to dive in and just have a little bit of fun. I've heard the story isn't anything groundbreaking or anything to really change any views or your mind or anything like that. It's not something that's going to redefine comics for you, but it is extremely fun, I've heard, and definitely worth checking out, based off other people's opinions at least. So I am excited to dive in and actually fully experience and get my own opinion on it. All right, next we have Once and Future by Kieran Gillen. If you follow me on TikTok, you've probably seen the story behind this book, how it came damaged. I ordered a replacement. The replacement came damaged. Wasn't sure which one to keep. Not even sure if I'm going to keep this one. Has a little bit of a nick on the cover. But I want it in the collection, and I'm not going to jump through hoops to keep getting replacements that are going to keep coming damaged. So I'm not exactly sure if I'll be keeping this exact copy, but this will be in the collection. And this will be something that I will finally get the chance to read eventually. I'm not sure when, but I'm happy to actually have it. Next up, we have The Amazing Screw-On Head by Mike Mignola. It has very similar dimensions and feel to the Hellboy Library editions with this cloth-like spine with the gold lettering. It is about the same size as well, roughly. I think this is a little bit taller, I'm not too sure, but I'm a huge fan of Mike Mignola. I don't have the Hellboy Library editions in my collection. Eventually they will be added. So I am excited about that, and I'm excited to experience this since I missed out on the last printing. This recently got reprinted for the 20th anniversary. So I am extremely excited to add it to the collection and actually be able to get a copy. All right, moving on, we got some DC books. We have Heroes in Crisis, The Price and Other Stories. If you follow me on TikTok, you've seen that I got this from the Third Eye end of summer sale, where a lot of hardcovers, a lot of collected editions are 50% off. So I was able to pick this up. This does follow the Heroes in Crisis event. I do not have that book. It's not at the top of the list just because it's a little bit of a controversial story itself because of what takes place and the character that it kind of takes place with. If you don't know, then maybe I'll do a review on it so you can get up to speed when I do get it. But until then, this is just being added to the library just because it was 50% off, and it's something that I'm going to need once I get Heroes in Crisis anyway. So happy to have it. Happy to read it once I actually get that book. Next, we have Superman and Lois Lane hardcover. This isn't something that was at the top of my list again. Also got it at the end of the summer sale for 50% off, which is probably the only reason that it was purchased. It mainly was picked up just because it's a very historical moment for Superman. This has to do with one of my favorite characters and a big moment in his life. So historically, it's worth having in the collection. It's not my favorite event or my favorite story or my favorite thing that even happened to Superman, but it's worth having just to kind of experience it as the story of Superman through the years. So just for that, I am excited to add it to the library, but it wasn't a necessity. Up next, more DC books. We have Green Lantern, Green Arrow, the deluxe editions. I do know that this is in an absolute edition, but I do not collect absolutes. They're just a little too big for me. But I'm happy to finally have it in the collection. I don't know how I've went this long with it, with Neil Adams and Dennis O'Neil on the book. It's historical to have in the collection just because of the contents and the things that take place. It's a very divisive story. It has a lot of differing viewpoints that get covered. So it's very, very intriguing to read through with an open mind and see both of their mindsets on different issues. So I'm extremely excited to have this and reread it and re-experience it just to kind of get a refresher on what actually took place in the story itself. All right, next up, we got the final DC book, which is a big boy. We got the 52 Omnibus. This does take place right after the Infinite Crisis, which is my favorite event in comics ever, so I'm extremely excited to add this to the collection. I missed out, obviously, on the previous printing, as well as the shadow print that they did without notifying really anybody. Thanks a lot for that, DC, but I am excited to add it in just so I can get the entire story from Infinite Crisis to the 52. This does include the entire event minus, I believe, World War III and a couple other orphaned issues, but all in all, it is a great story. It really is something worth experiencing, especially if you've already read Infinite Crisis. So getting your hands on this is definitely worthwhile. Not to mention the amount of issues you get in this. I mean, if you can't tell, it is extremely thick and worth the price. Maybe not the price that they increased it to, but worth the price that we get it for from distributors. The next book we have is some Marvel books. The first Marvel book we have, which I also found at the Third Eye summer sale, is The Daredevil by Ed Brubaker. Omnibus. Found this for 50% off as well. It's the DM variant cover. Not a huge fan of this cover, but it is what it is. For 50% off, I'm of course going to pick it up. This run, it follows the Brian Michael Bendis run, which I don't have those in omnibus format, so I do have to collect those before I can even dive into this, but for 50% off, it's worth adding to the collection in preparation for whenever those get reprinted or I get my hands on those. So, very happy to add this to the collection. Just need to get my hands on a couple more Daredevil Omnis, more specifically some of his modern runs, just so I can get a lot of the stories that involve Daredevil that I'm a huge fan of. Next but not least, we have the final book of the haul, which also happens to be a whale of mine. I never thought I was going to get my hands on it, but thanks to Dying Breed Collectors, I did. And that book is the Old Republic Omnibus Volume 1. This book was released, and I really didn't think the interest was there, so there's no rush to getting it. But, of course, somehow people bought it up, and I missed out on my copy. But this probably has the best opening in comic books ever, and the less I say about it, the better for you as the reader. It is worth experiencing, especially if you're a fan of Star Wars, obviously, but I'm super excited to experience it again and read it from cover to cover, and you can definitely expect a review or overview on this book just because there was a lot of hype behind it once it went out of print. So I am extremely happy to add this to the collection, and I am even more happy to actually be able to read it. But that will conclude the August haul. So if you can, just like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know if you got any of these books or which book I should dive into next. And if you would be interested in me doing a review or overview on any of them as well. I'm very interested in you guys' opinions and what I should be reading next. So if you could, just like, comment, and subscribe, hit that notification bell. You can also follow me on social media such as TikTok and Instagram, which is the same handle as the YouTube. And don't forget to stay nerdy, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.